Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. Folks, I do not spend my valuable time making videos unless they're urgently important for our collective families, our futures, our financial well-being, etc. Therefore, do several things for me and for yourself. Watch till the end, like, comment, and then share widely with all of your family and friends. All right? All right, let's get into this video. So what if I told you Congress is trying to silence medical schools for even mentioning racism? Yes, medical schools that educate and train the doctors who provide us medical care and our families. There's a bill called H.R. 3518. Say it with me. H.R. 3518. Again, H.R. 3518. Write it down somewhere. It's part of Trump's full-blown anti-DEI, anti-Black, anti-civil rights campaign being pushed by MAGA Republicans in Congress. It's not just a vicious attack on our health care. Folks, it's a vicious attack on Black rights, Black progress. Now, I know some folks may already be thinking, DEI? That only help white women. Why should I care? Why should we be concerned about DEI? Well, let me stop you right there. That's what pro-Black imposters want you to believe. But here's what they want you to ignore. They either supported Trump directly or they told Black folks to vote the couch. And now that Trump is back in office, launching a full-scale attack on DEI, civil rights, and Black progress, they're stuck. They're in a very dubious position of either admitting they helped elect a man who's attacking us or pretending that what he's doing doesn't really hurt us. So they downplay it. They say DEI is just for white women, that it only benefited white women. That's false, and it's dangerous. Yes, white women have benefited more in terms of numbers, but that's only because, as I've said so many times, white women are a much larger group than we African Americans. There are more white women in the country than there are Black people. So DEI, yes, numerically benefits them the most. But DEI was created because of racism to help us, and it worked. It opened doors to law schools, to medical schools, to tech schools, to finance, to jobs, academia. Killing DEI is not about fairness, it's about shutting Black people out once again. And this bill makes that plain. So do not think, well, this is DEI and it has nothing to do with Black people. That's disinformation. Now, H.R. 3518 would strip funding from any medical school that even acknowledges systemic racism exists. Just acknowledging it. So in this video, I'm going to break it all down for you. What this bill really does, how it rewrites a very important civil rights law, the Higher Education Act of 1965, and why it's really a targeted attack on Black opportunity, Black progress, but they've dressed it up as some sort of colorblind fairness. The law they're trying to rewrite is the Higher Education Act of 1965. Again, the Higher Education Act of 1965. President Lyndon Baines Johnson signed it into law during the Civil Rights era. It was a part of his war on poverty. Now, the goal of the Higher Education Act of 1965 was to make college affordable for everyone, especially low-income blacks. It created the Pell Grants, federal student loans, and work-study jobs. Incidentally, if it wasn't for the Pell Grant, I would not have been able to go to college. My family was just too poor to give me any money for college. But because of the Pell Grant, I was able to go to college and come out debt-free. But the Higher Education Act of 1965 not only did that for me and many others, but it also funded HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions. Again, this law helped millions of black students go to college. Now, MAGA, what they want to do is they want to flip that mission. They want to use that same law to block diversity and equity programs. Now, here's where H.R. 3518 comes in. It will make some insidious and racist changes to the Higher Education Act of 65. For example, if a medical school has a DEI office, it loses federal funding. If it teaches that racism exists in America, it loses federal funding. Now, who does that impact? Not white women. That impacts us. You see, they're using their anti-DEI campaign to target black people, which is why you don't need to close anything out just because you hear something about DEI and the fact that you've been told that it only impacts white women. Again, that's disinformation. All right, now back to H.R. 3518. If a medical school requires diversity statements or offers DEI training, they lose that federal funding. Even student loans are off the table pursuant to H.R. 3518. That means black students at those schools that can't get federal loans to pay tuition, they will lose their funding. Schools will have to choose between telling the truth about racism or money. MAGA supporters, they lie and they say this bill is about fairness. That's a bold-faced racist lie. They claim to care about civil rights. That's another lie, unless they're talking about these false reverse discrimination claims. No, the truth is, this bill bans programs that focus on race as if America is not a deeply racist country. In fact, it bans courses that teach systemic racism still exist today. I mean, that's crazy. It's preposterous. It bans anything that might acknowledge racial inequality. So it's basically, this bill, H.R. 3518, is basically rewriting history. It's sanitizing America. And it does so by using this false narrative of colorblindness. Okay? And that begs the question, when has America ever been colorblind? Was it colorblind during 256 years of chattel slavery that enslaved black people specifically? Was it colorblind when it segregated blacks during Jim Crow? Was it colorblind when it implemented these systemic racist policies and procedures across institutions in America, even after Jim Crow ended? Again, America has never been colorblind. They use that colorblind narrative to basically protect white dominance. They use it to attack civil rights. I mean, they essentially use it to whitewash injustice. Now, let me talk about why this all hurts blacks the most. In other words, let's talk about the real world damage that the African American community will suffer as a result of H.R. 3518. First, it hurts Black medical students. And that's serious because only 7% of U.S. doctors are Black in the first place. And DEI program is the vehicle that got many of those doctors in medical school. This bill also hides the truth about Black health care. And no matter how much they deny it, we all know systemic racism is a real thing, and it's especially prominent in Black health care. Let me prove it. Black women are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth. Let me say it again. Black women are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth. When Black women get pregnant, that becomes a threat to their health and to their life. Also, white doctors especially tend to ignore our pain. So when we tell them we're in pain, oftentimes they don't believe it, or they believe stupidly that we can endure pain better than whites. I remember almost broke my toe once. I went to the hospital and I was in excruciating pain, and I needed a boot to wear on my foot so that it would alleviate some of that pain, but I had to beg just to get a $200 boot. I mean, they simply ignore our pain levels. And we Blacks, we also die faster from cancer. And many times that's because we get misdiagnosed more often. And here is where DEI helps to address some of those systemic injustices in healthcare. It does so by teaching future doctors to see those systemic injustices in Black healthcare and then work to fix them. But H.R. 3518 would stop those lessons, that focus. It would literally cause medical schools to train doctors to be aware of and treat those wrongs. I mean, that's what they are. Third, H.R. 35 threatens financial aid. Again, when we already have, 7% of Black doctors in this country? We don't need anything else threatening some of these young, brilliant African-American students, these young people, from becoming doctors. So they need the financial aid. In fact, Black students rely heavily on federal loans to become doctors. If schools lose access to this funding, then our community lose these culturally trained African-American doctors to treat us. I mean, we don't have enough Black doctors who know, who understand, who appreciate and prioritize, who share in our unique cultural needs. All right. Also, H.R. 3518 betrays and undermines the purpose of the Higher Education Act of 1965 that I told you about earlier. That bill that Lyndon Johnson signed into law to give us opportunity. H.R. 3518 weaponizes. It turns the Higher Education Act of 65 into a weapon to take away opportunity from us. Now, don't lose sight about this one factor. Okay? There's something you cannot forget. This is part of a bigger war. Think about it. They killed affirmative action. They banned DEI. Now they're going after medical schools and accrediting agencies. Folks, this isn't about fairness. It's about racism. It's about power. It's about control. And it's downright mean-spirited. Just mean-spirited. And the people who benefit the most are the people who need the help the least. White students. H.R. 3518, it isn't colorblind. Not at all. I tell you what it is. It's color silent. It's silent about the systemic racism that is in the healthcare industry. That's a part of the healthcare system. And that silence is being pushed for a specific purpose, and that is to protect white power. Now, I always like to end with some solutions. And the solution in this instance are very important. So here's what we got to do to stop HR 3515. Call your representative. This bill was introduced into the House, I believe it was May 20th, 2025. And so now it's there. So they're going to be voting on it, they're going to be debating it, and so on. And we got to push that it never sees the light of day. But we do know that they have a slim majority in the House, so it may make it through the House, but then our chances of stopping it increases in the Senate. And that's because a senator, a Democratic senator, can filibuster it. And the GOP, MAGA, doesn't have the 60 Senate votes to overcome that filibuster. So we can, if we work hard, we can stop them from weaponizing a civil rights law, the Higher Education Act of 65, that was put in place to help us overcome centuries of racial oppression. So again, call. Also, share this video and support the groups and efforts that are out here fighting to protect DEI, because it is not just all about white women. I explained to you earlier, the pro-black imposters say that because they got to justify their support for Trump. They don't want you knowing that they supported and had a whole lot of black folks support an anti-black agenda. So they try to decrease and diminish all the anti-black stuff that he does. All right, if you are a student, a doctor, a dentist, a nurse, or any other healthcare professional, even if you're retired, help get the word out and keep telling the truth. Because when they silence equity, when they silence civil rights, they are silencing we African Americans. And we cannot afford to be silent. I am Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for commenting and liking the video. And remember, as always, stay woke.